Today we're going to talk about a story that's bitter yet filled with twists, tragedies, and comedy. The protagonist of this story is a European princess, born in the mid-19th century, who once thrived in the Viennese court. In an era akin to that of Sissi, the princess could have lived a life of luxury, extravagance, and debauchery, adorned in silken attire. However, in pursuit of freedom, she forcefully broke free from the shackles of her family. Eventually, her later years were marked by desolation, culminating in a lonely demise. She is Princess Louise of Belgium. Louise was born in 1858 into the Belgian royal family, her father being Leopold II. Leopold II was the second king of Belgium after its independence, and arguably the most ambitious and powerful king in Belgian history. During his reign, Belgium's power and wealth flourished. By the time Louise turned 15, many nobles sought her hand in marriage. Among them was her future husband, Prince Philip from the Duchy of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha in Germany. Perhaps some viewers recognize this surname? Indeed, before the British royal family changed their name to Windsor, they used this surname. It was the surname of Prince Albert, the husband of Queen Victoria. Interestingly, the Belgian royal family also bore the surname Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. They were descendants of the same ducal house in Germany. Therefore, Louise married her first cousin. This cousin had been tirelessly courting Leopold II for Louise's hand since she was 15. Moreover, he showed great sincerity by personally coming, along with his mother, to Brussels to meet his future father-in-law. 2 years later, when Louise was 17, the marriage was finally settled, and she wedded Philip, who was 14 years her senior. Due to Philip's pre-marriage declarations of affection and his dignified appearance, Louise had high expectations for this marriage. However, on their wedding night, Louise plummeted from heaven to hell. According to Louise's recollection later, she did not feel any tenderness from her husband. She felt that night inflicted upon her a wound that would never heal in her lifetime. During that era, the publishing industry was already well developed, and Philip enjoyed collecting various novels. Additionally, Philip exerted strong control over the young Louise in every aspect of her life, imposing strict demands and limitations. Despite her young age, Louise was inherently strong-willed, leading to the rapid deterioration of their marital relationship. One incident vividly illustrates the extent of Louise's aversion to her husband. When she was about to give birth to her second child, one morning, Louise began experiencing contractions, signaling that she was about to go into labor. However, she forcibly suppressed them, concealing any signs from her husband until Philip left for work as usual. Only then did Louise summon a maid. With time running out, she gave birth without a doctor present. After marrying Philip, Louise gave birth to 2 children, a son and a daughter. They lived in Vienna and were well acquainted with the nobility of the Austrian Habsburg dynasty. Louise frequented various court and aristocratic balls, finding joy in partying and drinking. Leveraging her beauty, social skills, and ample wealth, she successfully mingled with handsome young men in Vienna. Rudolf, the crown prince of the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the son of Empress Elizabeth, was a good friend of Louise. They got along quite well, and Louise once suggested to Rudolf, "If you like me, why not marry my sister?" Later, Rudolf indeed became Louise's brother-in-law. Louise's sister was named Stephanie, and Louise initially thought her sister's marriage to Vienna would provide her with company. Little did she know, before Stephanie's wedding, their mother specifically instructed her, "Don't get too close to your sister, keep your distance from her." Their mother's caution was not unfounded. Louise openly engaged in extramarital affairs. Her affair was with an officer under her husband's command, which lasted nearly 5 years until the officer unexpectedly passed away. Subsequently, Louise engaged in another ambiguous relationship with another officer, lasting a solid 5 years. Later, when her lover married someone else, their affair ended. By this time, Louise was already 35 years old. During this period, whether out of lingering affection for Louise or perhaps due to his father-in-law's influence, Philip, her husband, aside from complaining to his mother-in-law, seemed powerless. After the end of Louise's second extramarital affair, her life calmed for 2 years. Everyone thought she had settled down, but no one anticipated that 2 years later, a more tumultuous affair would turn the 37-year-old Louise's household upside down. That year, Louise, while traveling by carriage, encountered an officer named Gazar who was tending to his horses by the roadside. Gazar, hailing from Croatia, was 9 years her junior. Yet, in a magical moment of eye contact, they fell deeply in love. As Louise was a notable figure in Vienna, Gazar sought opportunities to meet her again. Sensing his intentions, Louise, after they grew closer, arranged for Gazar to manage her horses and teach her riding, knowing his passion for it. Their affair scandalized the entire aristocratic circle of Vienna. Even the Austrian Emperor Franz Joseph I, husband of Empress Elizabeth, personally spoke to Louise, commanding her to end the extramarital relationship and threatening to bar her from the Viennese court if she didn't comply. Philip, too, was furious, banning Gazar from his home. To Louise, it seemed like they were conspiring to force her out. So, she fled with her lover to France. Louise, accustomed to living extravagantly, continued her lavish lifestyle in France with her lover. However, she had no money of her own and had to rely on credit, accumulating significant debts. When Philip learned of this situation in Vienna, he contacted the authorities and had Gazar arrested on charges of forgery. Simultaneously, he had Louise apprehended and issued her an ultimatum: either return to him or be committed to a mental asylum. Upon hearing the two options, Louise decisively chose the latter. Philip, in turn, showed no mercy. He presented pre-prepared psychiatric assessment reports and had his wife committed to a mental asylum. Thus began Louise's 7-year-long life as a psychiatric patient. By this time, Louise was nearing 40, and it was the turn of the 19th century to the early 20th century. Europe had moved past the era where husbands wielded absolute authority over their wives. The saga of Philip and Louise became a hot topic in Austrian newspapers, with many siding with Louise and condemning Philip's actions of imprisoning his wife. Under pressure, Philip transferred Louise from the mental asylum in Vienna to a villa in Germany, hoping to quell the public outcry. Louise thought this would be her life from then on, but events took a clandestine turn. The turning point came from Louise's lover, Gazar. He was rescued from prison by a courageous lady who had learned about Gazar and Louise's story from the newspapers. This lady spent several years actively reaching out to various individuals, including lawyers, journalists, and others, defending Gazar in the press and appealing his case. Eventually, she succeeded in having the court overturn Gazar's conviction. By this time, Gazar had already spent 4 years in prison. Gazar's priority upon his release was naturally to rescue Louise. However, the path to her liberation proved exceptionally arduous. They waited for 3 years until they finally seized an opportunity when Louise had to seek medical treatment outside. Together, they fled to Paris. Upon their arrival, Louise promptly sought the endorsement of a psychiatrist to certify her mental stability. With the certificate in hand, she initiated divorce proceedings against her husband, achieving her long-awaited freedom. Now liberated, Louise didn't abandon her habit of extravagant spending, believing that even after divorced, she remained a Belgian princess. She once sought help from her father, Leopold II, who demanded she leave Gazar. Louise refused, despite knowing Gazar had other lovers besides her. After being rejected, her father severed all ties with her, offering no assistance whatsoever. Louise believed her father, being immensely wealthy, couldn't possibly leave her with nothing. However, she underestimated his pettiness. Leopold II, known for his cruelty as a monarch and ruthlessness in colonial endeavors, was also an exceptionally stingy father. When he died in 1909, Leopold left almost all his private wealth to his mistress, leaving his 3 daughters with nothing. Louise, along with her 2 sisters, embarked on a legal battle to claim their share of the inheritance. While they did receive some portion of the estate, it was far from enough to cover her previous debts. Moreover, the Belgian royal family didn't welcome Louise back to reside in the country. Thus, Louise returned to Vienna with Gazar. At times when life became challenging, she had to turn to her sisters or daughters for help, though they had long distanced themselves from her. Their occasional assistance leaned more towards charity. Years passed, and then World War I erupted. As a Belgian princess, the imperial police of the Austro-Hungarian Empire came to evict her. Unable to remain in Vienna any longer, she had no choice but to take refuge in Bavaria, Germany. During her time in Bavaria, Louise endured the distressing ordeal of creditors coming to seize and forcibly sell her belongings. Meanwhile, she had to proactively sell some of her jewelry to make ends meet. Even after the end of World War I, the Belgian royal family adamantly refused to allow Louise to return home. Her life with Gazar remained impoverished. In 1923, Gazar passed away in Paris. According to reports from the New York Times at the time, Louise couldn't even afford to bury Gazar. A year later, Louise herself passed away in Wiesbaden, Germany. At the time of her death, she held Gazar's photograph in her hands, and her home was devoid of wealth. In her later years, Louise wrote an autobiography. In it, she wrote, "I want to fight for myself, to live for myself. Perhaps this is inconceivable to my family. They all think I'm insane. Perhaps for them, a woman who continually fights is terrifying." Louise's life didn't end in fulfillment, but she lived it on her terms. Do you think such a life is worth it?